Hi, boys and girls. My name is Miss Melissa, and I am here today to do an art project with you. We are going to draw a narrative, just like this. A narrative tells a story. It usually has a setting, even the characters, and when you look at the drawing of a narrative, you can always see the events taking place. You will never guess what we will be drawing a picture of today. A word problem. I don't know about you, but I used to always get really nervous when I had to solve a word problem when I was in school. I guess about your age. But then I discovered if you draw what is going on in the word problem and make a picture out of it, it helps you to understand it. So let me show you the supplies so we can get started. You're going to need 2 white sheets of paper, a box of crayons, and maybe a couple of pencils and an eraser. So why don't you go ahead and get your supplies ready, and while you do that, I could show you this famous artist who creates narratives. Now this is a map of the United States of America. Do you notice this state in red? This is Louisiana. Many of you recognize this as the state of Louisiana. This is where I am from, and the artist that I'm going to show you today, she is also from Louisiana. Now here is a book called Painting by Heart. This is the life and art of Clementine Hunter, Louisiana folk artist. Now some people call her Clementine Hunter. So let's try to say it both ways. Say it with me. Clementine Hunter. Clementine Hunter. It just depends on how you want to pronounce it. This is actually a picture of Clementine Hunter with the author of the book. As you can see, she looks a little bit older. She's an older woman in this picture. And do you know that she lived to be 101 years old? Now let's look at another picture. Here you could see it's a little bit smaller. Here's another black and white photograph. She is sitting outside. She's actually painting outside of her home. And her home was located on a plantation. And you know that she even sold her paintings starting at 50 cents? Here is a picture of the plantation that she lived on. A plantation is an entire piece of land with many houses, and the land is used to grow crops. I think where she lived, they grew peas and corn. I know for sure. Now, here is one of her talking to a man, and you know what they're discussing? She was creating a cookbook, her own cookbook. Isn't that neat? So not only did she sell her artwork, but she also created a cookbook too. Now, here is a picture of one of Clementine Hunter's paintings. What do you notice in this picture? It definitely is a narrative, right? Let me help you out a bit. What if I asked you what the setting was? Are they inside or outside? They're outside, right? And you can tell because there's trees and there are people here, so there's lots of different characters, right? Oh, look at that. It looks like a little boy hanging upside down. He's probably playing, huh? But what do you think the people are doing? What are the events in this picture? And if you live in Louisiana or have trees like this, then you'll probably be able to guess. Because if you have actually done this, then you will know what it is. Let me just read the title to you. It says pecan picking. So they are all picking pecans. Some of you may have guessed that right away. Just take a good look at this one. I doubt if you've ever seen this in real life. You may have seen this in books or have heard stories about what's happening here. But this is called Wash Day. All the women outside are washing clothes. Look at this. You see these two back here? A long time ago, before washer and dryers were invented, people used to have to wash their own clothes in a metal container. And there was a washboard, and you would just kind of scrub the clothes along the washboard. And then after you cleaned it with soap and water, you would hang them to dry. So she used to wash her clothes like this. Here's another one with the setting that is outdoors. And I see some people here. Just take a good look at this picture. What are some of the things that you notice? You might notice the trees and maybe even the bench that they're sitting on. Do you notice what this lady's holding right here? A cup, like a little coffee cup or a tea cup, right? And they're sitting down. And then look at this guy. He's walking his dog. It looks like a nice day outside. So do you think they're working or relaxing? Probably relaxing. It sure looks like it, huh? That's nice, because we know that in her other paintings, washing clothes and picking pecans, that's a lot of work, right? And this is the last picture I want to show you of one of her narratives. This is taking place indoors. It's called Ring Around the Rosie. And you can see that everyone is holding hands and having a good time. So this is the only one that I showed you that was actually inside their house, right? But it looks like just people getting together, and it looks like they're having a nice time. So that's the cool thing about drawing narratives. You can actually see where it's taking place, who's in the story and what's happening. So I am ready to start drawing our narrative together based on a word problem. But I want to show you a couple of little lines and shapes first so we can create one. We're just going to review, because if you've been working with me, we've been using these already. Here we have a straight line. We're going to use also some curvy lines. We're going to use some wavy lines, a couple of zigzags, a few circles, even a few ovals. We might even draw a square or a rectangle. So far, you've been learning about all kinds of ways to add and subtract numbers, right? You've learned how to use tape diagrams, number bonds, place value disc. But no matter what method you use to add and subtract, you always have to show the place value of 10 and even ones. And you can even count by 2s, 5s, and 10s because it makes it easy. So we are going to do that today. Except we're going to draw a picture called a narrative to help us see the place value of 10, and we are going to count by 10s. Let's take a look at this problem. Here's a word problem that you've probably seen before. I'm going to read it to you. Frederick counted a total of 80 flowers in the garden. There were 39 white flowers and the rest were pink. How many flowers were pink? So far we know, and I usually read it twice, right? So far we know, what's the setting? The garden. Who is in the story? Frederick, he's the character, right? And the garden didn't have a bunch of vegetables like tomatoes and strawberries. The garden had what? Flowers. So what I like to do, and I always do this, I usually underline or draw a circle or a box around the important stuff. So we know there was a total of 80 flowers in the garden. How many white ones did we have? 39 white flowers, and the rest were pink. They want to know how many flowers were pink. So that's the one that's missing. So what I like to do is maybe write a couple things. You know, I might say, okay, let's just put 80, and you're just going to watch me. You're just going to watch me do this. There's 80 total flowers, right? So let's look at 80. 8 is in the 10th place. What kind of picture could represent 80 flowers, but maybe in a row, you know, and we could have each row represent 10 flowers. Wouldn't that be easier to draw than having, you know, 80 individual flowers? Now, if this was talking about a bouquet of flowers, then we would have a bundle, right? But for a garden, we could actually show a row. So if 8 is in the 10th place, then we would have 8 rows of 10 flowers. That means 10 flowers would be in a row, right? Now let's look at 39. 39 white flowers. So I'm going to put a W, right? We don't know how many. Here's 39 white. We need to find out how many pink flowers. So you could subtract, what, 39 from 80. Or we could figure out by drawing how many pink flowers there are and add them together. So let's look at 39. What is in the 10th place? 3, right? So we could maybe add how many rows of white flowers? We could add 3 rows of 10 white flowers, and there'll just be 9 by itself, correct? So we're going to have plus 9 white flowers, not a complete row. Let's go ahead and start drawing this together. All right, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to draw, we're going to put a bright big sun in the sky to show that we're outside, right? We're creating the setting. And we're going to draw Frederick really nice and tall, standing like he's overlooking the garden. So let's start by drawing a circle for his head, a straight line for his neck, an oval for his chest, another little straight line that connects his hips, and we can make that into an oval or a circle. Now, I don't know if you joined me last time, but I had a video on how to draw people, and I'm drawing people kind of the same way. We're going to pretty much make him into a stick person. You can just kind of, and his arm's going to come out his side here. Maybe we can have him watering the garden, huh? So I just used some straight lines for his arms and legs. I'm going to put a hat on him and put one eye and a mouth because he's looking this way at his garden. So just some straight lines for his arms and legs, circles or oval for his face, chest, and hips, and I could maybe draw some ovals for his shoes. Now, he is going to be watering his garden. So right next to where he's standing, I want you to draw a straight line going all the way down and all the way across. This is going to be his garden. And we're going to make a little key over here. I'll show you what that means in a second. So just copy off of me. You're going to draw a straight line going all the way across. Okay, now we can draw him standing on some grass. So if you want to draw a zigzag with me, zig, zag, zigzag. This is him standing in the grass, and he's going to water his garden. So we made a big rectangle for the garden. Now we can draw a watering can together, kind of like a square, with a curvy line for the spout and a handle. Very good. So far we're using lots of straight and curvy lines. Now if you remember, the word problem had 80 flowers total, right? So we're going to show 80 flowers, but we're going to make it simple by drawing a row that equals 10 flowers. So watch. I want you to make kind of like a blob. Just a bumpy line. Do you see this? If we were looking over the garden, it would look like a bunch of rows of flowers, right? It would look like this. So you're going to make a blob shape, a long bumpy row, and we're going to put equals how many flowers? 10. And we're going to write equals 10 flowers. Because remember, in the word problem, there was a total of 80 flowers. So we're going to make 8 rows of 10 flowers. Are y'all ready to do that together? So make sure you write this. Let's make some little lines starting on this side of the garden so we can kind of guess where 8 rows will go. Ready? Let's just kind of, you can watch me do it first. 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm spacing them out, 5, 6, 7, 8. About where I drew those straight lines, I'm going to make my big, long, bumpy rows. We have to have 8 rows, okay? Because we need 80 flowers. So go ahead and draw with me 8 bumpy, long rows. You can just copy off of me. Maybe your bumps will be a little bit different than mine. And we're putting our long rows of flowers inside of the garden. Remember, each row has how many flowers? 10. Very good. All right, now when you're done, you can erase these straight lines right here. You don't really need them. So you need 8 bumpy rows of flowers. And you're gonna get a chance to color all of this in. Okay, now, so go ahead and finish that up. Let's go back and look at the word problem. Remember we said there were 39 white flowers? And so we looked at the place value of 10, right? If we had 39 white flowers, how many rows can we make of 10 flowers? We can make 3 rows of 10 flowers, right? But we're going to have 9 left over. If we had one more flower, we could have 40, and then we could just make how many rows? 4 rows. Okay, but we don't. We have this. So let's go ahead and look at 3 rows. So that means, let's start at the top. 1, 2, 3 of these rows are going to be whites. 1, 2, 3. 3 rows are white, so we're not going to color that. Now let's count by 10. Because remember, there's 10 flowers in a row. 10, 20, 30. Okay, so here's our 30 flowers. Now, there's 39, not quite 40, remember? So that means, why don't we draw one more flower? One more flower right here. Just copy off of me. You'll understand it in a second. Let's put it in our key first. I want you to draw a bumpy flower in your key right here. And the key has a bunch of symbols. And we're going to put equals one flower. Okay, so we have 10, 20, 30, 39 white. One flower is not going to be white. So we're going to draw one single flower inside of that row. And remember, the rest were pink. So that means we're going to color all the other flowers pink, including this little one. Right? There was only 39, so we're going to color this pink. And that means all the rest are pink. So here are my pink rows of flowers. And Frederick is watering the flowers and he's looking above. If you ever stood above rows of flowers, it would sort of look like this. And I'm going to show you how to even create or enhance your picture a little more to make it look like a garden. So let's just color these pink rows of flowers. This is so much easier than drawing 10 of these flowers, right? One big blob is the same thing as 10 flowers. So just keep on coloring, and as you finish coloring, you can take a look. Now let's count how many flowers are pink. Can y'all do that with me? Remember, 10 flowers equals a row, right? Let's count together. 10, 20, 30, 40, and how many single flowers? 1. So that's 41 flowers are pink. Let's check it. So I'm going to put that. The pink ones equals 41. If we had 39 white. So we can add them together. 39 white flowers plus 41 pink flowers. That gives me 80 flowers. Look at that. And the W stood for white and the P stood for pink. And I bet you know the F stood for flowers. So now if you wanted to, you could have subtracted, right? But instead we added it, and we found the answer just by coloring. I could show you how to subtract. We could have done that right away, real quick. You could have taken the total 80 and minused, and you're just watching 39. You can't take 9 from 0, right? So you have to borrow. Either way, the number of pink flowers is 41. Now let me show you a couple of tricks on how to get your garden to stand out even more. You can take your green and you can kind of just scribble some little areas on top and below of each row. Now it kind of takes a little bit of time. What do you think the green would represent? If you were thinking some leaves maybe, stems, vines. So for each row, if you could add a little bit of green, it'll start to look like a real garden. Now, what's going to be below the flowers? The dirt, right? And and that will be brown. So pretty much everything inside of this rectangle is going to be the dirt. You can color Frederick whatever color you want. You can put whatever clothes you want. You can make the picture whatever you like. The sun is most probably going to be yellow. The grass is probably going to be green. I would like to show you how I finished my narrative. See that? I left all of these white because remember we had, count with me, 10, 20, 39 white flowers, and then we had 41. Count with me, 10, 20, 30, 41 pink flowers. Do you see how nice this looks when you finish coloring? Do I have a character in this narrative? Yes, there's Frederick. What's the setting? The garden. Good. And what's happening? What are the events? Frederick is watering his 39 white flowers and 41 pink flowers. And then at the bottom you will see the key where you showed the place value of 10 and 1. I think you did a great job, boys and girls, and I hope you have fun coloring the rest of your narrative. Well, thanks for joining me today. We learned about so many things. We learned how to draw a narrative, just like this. Do you remember the 3 parts that you usually see when looking at a narrative? The setting, the characters, and you could even see the events. Very good. We learned how to draw narratives with word problems. So do you remember what place value is important when doing this? That's right, the place value of 10. 10 is like the magic number. If you can create a symbol for 10, like a row, which we did, we created rows, or even a bundle, then it makes it easy to draw. So as you go through the rest of your week, I hope that you will try to create a narrative using the place value of 10 the next time you have a word problem for homework. I'm sure you will do a great job with the drawing, and it can be a lot of fun too. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time.